organization. We work on this field from '96 officially, but earlier as an official group, we deal with the topic from the beginning of '90s. We are meeting today because of the International Day Against Racism. It's a very important day, and actually it's the day that is, for us, one of the most important days in a year, because we can meet here and talk about those issues very openly, not being attacked by racists, not being speaking openly about the topic, with understanding the topic from different angles, and finally meeting in a very diverse group, which is already a great step forward in promoting multiculturalism and fighting racism. Believe me, when we started the campaigning, like let's kick racism out of stadiums, people were shaking hands and saying, like, do you really want to fight racism at the stadium if there are only racists there? If we back from the beginning of '90s, the situation was really like this. But this day, this particular day, is also from this time generally, maybe not the day. It's very, very important for us as Never Again Association for last year, especially because just yesterday we had the 1-year anniversary of the death of the president of the Never Again Association, Marcin Kornak. A person who, being disabled, started a number of different campaigns in the beginning of '90s, when really the problem of racism and discrimination wasn't recognized in this country. And he was the guy who was receiving those phone calls, like saying, do you really want to fight racism at the stadiums? You know what you are starting. And after years, we were hosting Euro 2012, one of the biggest events promoting multiculturalism. For 3 weeks, Poland became a multicultural country that was proud of being open-minded. You know what I mean? That starting at the racist war at the beginning of '90s, promoting multiculturalism, starting monitoring work that was actually described here. The tools that are used by ministry were used previously in Brown Book, monitoring of racist incidents started by Marcin Kornak, I mentioned earlier. Campaigns like Let's Raise No Stadiums or Music Against Racism. These are steps that lead us to the situation that we are now sitting and discussing about what are the possible steps that we can make, what the achievements we've made so far, and what is the real problem about. And if we touch the real problem, I would say, unfortunately, I cannot agree with you totally, because I would say there is a bit of racism in this country, but it's going in the good direction. I mean, we monitor a number of... Give it time to... we monitor around... in the last edition of the Brown Book, we monitored around 300 incidents in 2 years. These are hate crime incidents, not only linked with racism, they are also linked with other types of xenophobia and discrimination. It shows that the problem exists. But it also shows that the real face of the problem is changing. There's less violence at the street caused by, for example, racist skinheads, like it was in the 80s or 90s, yeah? But there's more hate speech in the public, in the media. Which one is worse? I will not answer this question, but you can imagine that if there are, you don't have to imagine that, but if you observe the political life in Poland and you hear the hate speech from members of parliament, from journalists, from people who are celebrities, it shows that we don't know, that we actually don't recognize the topic totally. You know what I mean? That there is an issue of race, an issue of racism is still not recognized as an important topic that must be discussed and the topic that we will face in the coming years. Because what is important,
unity.
Exactly. What is important, I don't find Poland as a multicultural country. Not yet. But it will become a more multicultural country. I'm 100% sure about it. We are getting more and more people from abroad, and thanks God, we are more and more, every single year, we are more and more multicultural country. So we, as Polish, we must be prepared for multiculturalism. And I would say, unfortunately, we are not yet ready for this time. There's still too much hate crime. The problem of racism is still very often described as hooliganism, very often described as, I remember one of the members of parliament after really hard racist abuse, he said, it's not racism, it's a lack of intercultural knowledge. He was called nigger, and this guy comes from Africa. You know what I mean? The thing is that he didn't say, this is racism, and this person should be punished because this person made racist statement. Only that way we can fight racism with success. Naming the problem properly.
Now I don't agree. Now I don't.
Not putting it under carpet, but speaking openly, naming the hate crimes that are having the racist content in a proper way. This is what actually the campaign of ministry was going to achieve. Let's start speaking about hooligan activities that are facing minorities. No, it's racism. It's not hooliganism, but it's very often not only described by media and by public opinion that way, but unfortunately, more often it's interpreted that way by judges in the court, not recognizing the problem. But I mentioned earlier Euro 2012 as a good example of multiculturalism. I really believe that we have a number of tools that we can promote multiculturalism and anti-racism. You've mentioned about positive message earlier. I would say we have tools like music, which is a great multicultural tool. We have sports, football. Football wonderfully unites. There's a number of educational tools that were also mentioned earlier, like for example those trainings for police and teachers. So coming back to your speech, I would say, yes, we are the key actors at the field of fighting racism and discrimination. Each of us can be involved in any kind of activity that is against racism. It can be monitoring work, but it can be also being involved in social campaigns, like Music Against Racism or Let's Keep Racism Out of Stadiums. Each of us is not just an observer, but a key actor of fighting racism. And coming back to the person of Marcin Kornak, for me, a great friend and a person I miss a lot. I miss, yeah. This is the guy who said, I'm disabled, but I feel that the problem of racism is real and I can do a lot. Do you imagine that this guy organized over 100 concerts under the title Music Against Racism, and he didn't visit none of them? Can you imagine that he organized a campaign in sports that involved hundreds of football players and he never met none of them? But he organized football matches, he organized the friendly games. Do you know that in the Never Again magazine, there were like hundreds of people who were writing to the magazine. He never met them. He just called them. So believe me, in each of us, there's a huge power to do a lot and to fight racism effectively. And in this particular day, I'm very happy that we are meeting here and we can discuss about those topics. And as a conclusion, I would like to invite you to take materials that are being displayed, the leaflets, magazines, and some other gadgets we brought, and get involved. In each of those materials, you have an invitation to be active, to get involved, to do actions against racism, and I would really very much encourage you to feel it and start from now. Like you said, stand up, speak up, and fight racism, fight discrimination, fight Islamophobia, and fight anti-Semitism, because these are things that are actually being more and more real in the Polish community. Thank you very much for attending today. I'm at the very beginning of the meeting. There was a TV somewhere around, and they said, "Oh, not so many people come." But I see there's more and more people, and that's really great. And believe me, I remember similar meetings like 10 years ago, and believe me, the interest was much smaller. I'm really happy that in this particular day, 1 year after the death of a person who started anti-racist work, campaigning work in Poland, and in commemorating people who died in Sharpeville, we can meet and speak openly about all forms of discrimination. Thank you very much.
Thank you. That's stimulating remarks of speech.